Hi, my name's Jeremy Castle, and this is...
I'm Krista, and this is our son RJ. We are in Gilroy, California, and this is our skoolie that we built. So we live in the Bay Area, and with that comes a lot of expensive housing situation, and we just really wanted more for our family and didn't want all our money to be going towards nothing with rent. So we were looking into different living situations, and I was on Craigslist one day and someone had posted a bus about how they wanted to convert it into a skoolie, and that was kind of like the black hole of that whole world of that. And I sent Jeremy a picture and I was like, hey, you want to live in a bus? And that was on a Wednesday, and we had a bus by that Sunday. So in less than a week we decided to do this lifestyle, and it's been crazy, but it works for us and our family. I know it's not for everyone, but Absolutely. It definitely works with our spirit of adventure and wanting, again, like I said, more for our family and being able to travel but always have our home with us. And we know this isn't a lifestyle for us forever, but for now it works for us with small kids and with our remote jobs. We both have remote jobs, so we thought if there's any time to do this, it's now, before our kids are grown and in school, and who knows where we'll be then, you know?
We didn't buy the bus like this. No, it was yellow. It wasn't this tall. Just on Craigslist, we found it up in Oregon, and I bought a plane ticket.
One-way ticket.
One-way ticket, and Krista was actually in the Philippines on a missions trip, and I didn't tell her that I bought it.
But we were in agreement. It wasn't just like he decided on his own.
So I ended up dropping Krista off at the airport, driving home and dropping him off with my parents, and then driving back to the airport. And the guy that sold me the school bus picked me up from the airport, drove me to the bus, and I started it up and drove it back.
12 hours.
12 hours all the way up from Oregon, and yeah, it was an adventure.
The dining area is working out super well for us. We wanted a dinette situation that was convertible to a bed, but also was able to be a little bit more open when we weren't all sitting here eating together. So both of our benches are completely removable. They're not like latched down or anything because there's storage in each of them, so they're really weighted down. But as you can see, this bench is already turned out, so it's a little bit more open instead of an aisleway. And then both of the back pads of them come off, and we can turn it into a bed for someone to sleep on. And obviously it's completely custom made, so Jeremy made the table, he made the benches, he made it open so we could have storage in there, things like that. So for storage, if we need to get in here, we just lift these up and they completely come off. And then for the back pad, they're on guides and the whole thing comes off so they can shift into place right here for the bedding if we turn it all together. We have extra blankets for if people are sleeping on the bed. We have some baby clothes right now that are in storage for now since we don't need them. We have pillows, we have games, we have movies, just kind of stuff that we're not using every day but we'll need eventually type of stuff. And we don't need immediate access to, whereas our baskets and things right here is easier for us to get to. So it's so funny because we live minimal, but we still have like a junk drawer of stuff, which is funny to me. But then we just have a little bit of extra storage for like grocery bags and stuff under this area because it's super small, so you can't fit too much in there. But it just gives us a little bit more counter space. So we have like a lamp here, and it was a dead area, so we're like, might as well put another small cabinet, since we got our cabinets from our friends that happened to be remodeling their house. They're like, hey, if you want them, you can have them. So we mixed and matched all of our cabinets to fit in here specifically. So Jeremy had to chop and skew them, but it ended up working out really well. So of course we needed more seating area if we have people over. We like to entertain, and so this bench can completely go outside if we want it to. We can push it against here if someone wanted a little extra space while they're sleeping. And then I just wanted it to be open so it's not so closed off in here in this area. Just having open storage space makes the room feel a little bit bigger. So that's why we did it open on this side as opposed to the same kind of storage on this side. And yeah, again, custom made. Jeremy had to make it for the bus. And it's nice to have just that extra bench space so we can have, you know, more than 3 or 4 people sitting in here. We can have an additional 2 to 3 people. just RJ's toys and stuff over there. We have a bunch of games, since if we have game nights, we like to have game nights with friends. I'm a photographer, so I just have my camera bag here that I can just grab with all my gear in it, super easy and quick. And then my laptop for working, and just a notebook if I need it. Kind of just wherever I feel like working. It does work if RJ's in the back playing or he's laying down for a nap. Or I sit here, I can use it as like a little day bed area, move the pillows around. We also just like to sit on our bed. We also have another day bed back there that we can also sit at. We've talked about adding maybe like a flip up desk for a more permanent spot to work at back there one day, but it doesn't seem like we really need it at this point, so we haven't done anything about it. Why do it if you don't need it? But we also, I mean, Jeremy can work anywhere there's internet, so he can work at coffee shops, he can work at his parents' house, he can work here, he doesn't have to stay here to work, which is nice, and neither do I. So if we have someone to hang out with RJ for a few hours, go somewhere else, get out of the bus if we want. Again, I like to do things as open as possible, especially with being in a bus. Everything can get really tight really fast. And we had the luxury of having higher ceilings since we raised that roof. And so I was like, we can put some books up there. We can put some, like I have my Polaroid, RJ's ukulele, stuff like that. And as we grow into the bus more, we just have a little more extra storage space, I guess, for things that we need to just be able to grab kind of quick. So we wanted it to be open, but we still needed it to be secure while we're driving. So Jeremy had this really cool design with the pipes, and they've worked super well. So we don't have to move anything off of these bookshelves while we're driving, which is really convenient, less work for us when we're moving. So yeah, just wanting it to be open, as open as possible, really. So with our kitchen, we want to do something not galley style, not aisleway style, which is why our whole entire bus veers down a side hallway. So our kitchen was fundamental for that. And I wanted to have as much counter space as possible, and I wanted to be able to have open storage, but also regular cabinet space. And then I still wanted to have a big sink. So there's some stuff I wasn't really willing to compromise on. And by doing this L-shaped style, we were able to make that all happen. So it's worked super well for us. It's super open, and I think with our dinette situation, it helps with that. And we still have that big sink, which will be great when we have the baby, since we don't have a bathtub situation. So just RJ fits in there now, and he's 2.5, so it's a big sink, and it keeps me from having to constantly do dishes all the time, but still keeps them nice and hidden since it's a deeper sink. But yeah, we really wanted to have that side aisle, or the side aisle hallway, but with that L-shaped kitchen, and it's given us way more space than we thought we would have. So for our fridge, we wanted to have it under the counter, but we might go to a bigger fridge eventually, maybe as our family grows. But for now, it's definitely getting the job done. We got it, I want to say we got it from Craigslist, so it was like $40, and it was from an office, so it was barely used. Again, trying to save pennies here and there if we could. It doesn't take a lot of energy at all. I do not love the freezer situation, just because, I mean, you can't really keep stuff in there for too long. You have to kind of use it pretty fast, but it's good because then it keeps us from wasting food, which is really nice, actually. But yeah, it's working well for us. I mean, spec-wise, Jeremy would probably know a little bit more on it, but I don't really know. It just is small, but I'm surprised that we've been able to use it for as long as we have. I thought we'd need a bigger one right away, like an RV-sized one at least. I mean, if it works, it works. So yeah, more of the cabinets are the hand-me-down situation, and I just sanded them down and painted them, put new hardware on them, and they've been working as good as new, things like that. And we wanted to have some upper storage, but still wanted to have lower storage. And again, I said I wanted to have open storage space, so I wanted open shelving, which a lot of people don't want to do in a skoolie, but I knew that we weren't going to be traveling full time, so I knew that we could have an option like this. And pretty much the only thing that's glass is our dishes and our glasses, and so that's pretty much all we have to put away when we travel. And it's really just kind of wrapping them up in blankets, and we can put them in our storage benches, and everything else is fine. Nothing really shifts around in general on the bus, which I wasn't expecting, but it worked out well. If I need to replace them later down the road, maybe I'll do like a Corel or something like that, if I just get over putting them away all the time. But they work well for us. They're from our wedding, so I saved money there, not having to buy dishes. And it's stuff that we just use, you know, every day again. Just the plates, the bowls. We have like coffee and tea in here, and our wine glasses, and our coffee situation, which obviously we're fans of coffee, so we have to have our options. Stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. And then other than that, we have just some more glasses and plates and storage over here. We got some dry food here, pots and pans here, some lids for pots and pans down there, our garbage and cleaning supplies, and then all of our appliances fit in this one drawer, which is great. And then just utensils and glassware for storing stuff, food and things like that. So it all fits. I was surprised. I didn't think it was gonna fit. But we didn't really have to get rid of too much kitchenware. Yeah, so actually with our countertop, we got it from a Habitat for Humanity, which we try to do with a lot of stuff. It was originally just like a door, and it was $40, and it was like a 10-foot tall door. It was a huge door. And I told Jeremy, I was like, we could probably get away with using this for a while because we didn't know what we were gonna use for the countertop. But later on, we got some sweet, I think it's called ironwood or something, which is what our table is made of. But it was kind of last minute to our deadline. So we had already made this. So this is temporary for the meantime, which is good because it's water treated, but it's not holding up the best. So if I were to do something like this style again, maybe like a butcher block style, I'd probably do more of like a vinyl or a laminate, because this isn't holding up super well, but it does get the job done, and easy to clean, easy to treat. It was really cheap, so it's not like we're losing a ton of money on it. It'll just be more work of, you know, getting it out and redoing it, and that's on Jeremy's side, so I'll leave that up to him when he's ready. The backsplash here is not a hand-me-down, but the backsplash in our bathroom, most of it is a hand-me-down that you'll see later. This is just from Lowe's. I did it after I had tiled our whole bathroom, which was a feat in itself. So this was no problem. I think this was mosaic style. So, you know, you just lay it on there, tile it, and get the grout in there. That was super fast. But yeah, we just needed something to, you know, keep the walls getting dirty and gross. So, and I didn't want to go all the way up by any means. This was plenty. After tiling the bathroom, I was like, I don't really want to do anymore. This is good. It's a Panther stove, and it's obviously going to be a little bit smaller because it is made for RVs. But what I really loved about this one was that it had the cover. So you can just cover it and have extra counter space. Like I said, I wanted as much counter space as possible. It is gas, so our propane runs on it. But I mean, it's a 3-burner, which is actually pretty good. We do just have to ignite it with like a match or a lighter every time. But other than that, it's been working great for us. We made like a whole size pizza in here yesterday. So even though it's smaller, it works well. Yeah, it was more of a splurge, but because it had that top, and that's really what I wanted. And they definitely have options where you don't need the glass top cover. And most people think it's electric when they see this. They're like, oh, nice, you know? So it was something I just, again, wasn't really willing to compromise on. It is, like I said, it's more of a splurge, but if it's something that you need constantly, you're gonna be using it, you know? Because we don't have a microwave, which is kind of convenient and a big deal. You use it all the time. So having a stove that's gonna be reliable and working was a big deal for us, because it's just this and like our toaster, you know, for hot stuff. So I feel like I'm not in people's way and people aren't in my way. If I have friends over or if RJ is running around, I'm just in this specific area and people aren't running into me. And I just feel like I'm still, you know, I still have space. It's been working really, really well for us. And if all 3 of us are in here, I don't feel cramped. I don't feel claustrophobic. And it makes it feel so much less like a bus because it is a side kitchen. Rather, you know, most of the time you go in and they're all just 2 side aisle stove or countertops, and I love how it looks, but I want this to feel as less as a bus as possible. So that was kind of also a reason we went with this. And then with the roof raise, everyone's like, oh man, I forget I'm in a bus. And I'm like, yes, That is what I want. So leaving the kitchen, you go into our bathroom, which was a big labor of love on my side. I mean, the whole bus was Jeremy's labor of love, but this was my situation. Like I said earlier, the tile, the white subway tile was 98% off from Habitat for Humanity, which was $50. So that was huge saving on that side. And then when we ran out, we just got a couple pieces that needed to be filled in from like a Lowe's again. But we started from the ground up. Everything was red guarded mega, because this is kind of like a wet room situation when you see our shower. So just did mosaic tiles on the floor, did hand by hand, one by one subway tiles on the wall, and then we just did like an accent side of different tile on this side. And then they each have inset shelving, so for like our shampoos and things like that, so it stays out of the way, but we still have easy access to it. And we had to do it also around the wheel well, which was a maneuvering situation. So because we wanted that side aisle, we had to work around our wheel wells, which was kind of hard to do, but we made happen, and I'm super happy with how it's turned out. So we decided to put our vanity on top of the wheel well, and then our toilet on the side, just a regular foot pedal toilet. It's not compost or anything, so which is nice with a potty training child. But other than that, we just did some storage up top with some more piping so that it's still out of our way, but we can still get to it no problem. And we just have extra towels, soaps, cleaning supplies, anything you really need in your bathroom that wouldn't fit at our vanity, or in our medicine cabinet mirror. And we have this medicine cabinet mirror and the same one in our bedroom, which again, Habitat from Humanity. So they're big mirrors, but they have a lot of storage inside, and then we could fit all of our stuff without getting too cluttered in here. But because we had a side aisle, we couldn't do a toilet and a shower situation like most people do, or they do like a super, super tiny bathroom, because we knew we had a kid and we knew we were going to have another kid in this bus eventually, so we needed it to be a decent size. So we put our shower head over here with our removable shower curtain. It just hides away in the corner, and we just pull the shower curtain over across the vanity basically, and this is all down to a drain, so it just kind of like works as a wet room and just squeegee down the walls, and it's great actually. It's a pretty big shower. I think it's the biggest shower we've had out of all the places we've lived in since we were married, which is sad but true. So I'm super, super happy about this bathroom, and we have the RV vent on top so we can get some ventilation, and then another window in here just to get it all that steam out as much as possible. We needed to figure out a way that was going to make it work where we didn't have to rip out these pipe shelving, but it needed to bend to our will. So one of our friends, I guess, bends pipes, and he saw our bathroom and bent it for us and made it fit perfectly. And then with our rain shower head, yeah, it's a really luxurious space actually for the most part. So yeah, so with our tile, I didn't know a single thing about tiling, and I mean, my father-in-law had some idea. He, gave me some pointers here and there, but originally I started in this corner doing our subway tile, and I had no pattern. I didn't know any better, so I got about halfway up the wall and halfway up the other wall, and Jeremy said, "You're gonna have to redo that. That looks bad." And I was like, "Great, I've been in here for 6 days doing this, and I guess I'm gonna redo it." It took me 3 weeks to tile the bathroom because it was in the middle of summer, so so hot, which is great as well. But I mean, it was a learning lesson, and now I can tile pretty decently. I definitely wouldn't want to do it again, but I'm happy I did it. It's like one of those satisfying feelings, you did it yourself. You can be proud of it when you walk in, and when people tell me like, "Hey, that is an amazing bathroom," I'm like, it was worth it, We used liquid nails to have the towel stick on, and then I believe it was just regular grout that we used, and I had a lot of people ask me if the grout cracked, if it didn't hold up when we were driving, and it's done great so far. Maybe over time it won't, who knows? We won't know until we get there, but we haven't had any problems with the grouting situation. People were saying use like a flexible grout. We didn't even do that, and it's been fine, and none of the tiles have cracked or broken since we've driven as well. Nothing's fallen off, so yeah, the liquid nails held up really well. I'd say just don't get super careless and messy with them, because once it's dry, even if it is on the tile, it is harder to scrape off, so that's not as enjoyable. But they're a good alternative for sure. Yeah, and Jeremy's like, hey, hopefully we just don't have any mold situation. If anything, it might be like the wood up here. The shiplap on the ceiling would be fine, but other than that, I mean, that's easy to replace. The wood wasn't anything crazy like installed at all. So we decided to do a barn door just because we didn't want a door swinging into the hallway to take space while people were walking through and just make dead space. We just didn't want that. So Jeremy just bought the supplies to make one. It was way cheaper for him to be able to just build one rather than buy one. I know that they can be a couple $100s. He just got some wood from Home Depot or Lowe's, just got the railing, got some wood iron that we liked, and he just made it however we wanted to, and it was perfect since we had a door frame. He knew the sizes and the dimensions for that all. So it took him, I think, maybe $70 to make the whole door. And when we drive, he just has a pin that he puts in here so it stays locked, so it's not sliding back and forth. And it's worked out super well. I'm super happy with it. It keeps this area open when we're home and kids are running around and people are walking through. So, and it just keeps the water also from coming out. We do have the lip from the bathroom, but it also just, another preventer, keeps it like that way. So yeah, super easy. I definitely recommend barn doors just being handmade by, if you have anyone that knows what they're doing at all, you could do it. I could probably do it, and I don't know too much, but I could probably do it. So again, because we did that side aisle, we knew we'd have to work with the wheel wells, and we solved their problem in the bathroom, had to figure out what we were going to do here. And I suggested doing a step, since again, that luxury of having the raised roof, we weren't going to be hitting our heads, and we're also not super tall people, even if that was a problem. But so yeah, we just did a step. Originally I wanted to do some storage to bring out this step this way, all the way to the edge of RJ's room over here, but I'm kind of glad we didn't. It's just a natural flow that we walk through here, so I don't even notice it. RJ doesn't notice it. It just makes sense. It's the easiest thing that we could have done, and yeah, it works out well. It's not inconvenient. It doesn't feel unnatural in your walking pattern. So when we built RJ's room, we built with knowing that we were going to probably have another kid in the bus. So originally when we did it with bunk beds, and Jeremy welded them together. He knows how to weld, so he made 2 frames for toddler-sized mattresses, which we still have the second one, but we just took out for now since we don't have the second kid here yet. We just were like, you know what, we don't need it taking up space right now, so might as well just take it out, which is great since we have that perk. Since we built the bus, we know everything about it. And another thing awesome about it is that we made them Murphy style. So when RJ wants to just play in here during the day, if we don't need his bed out, we can just take off the side railings and fold the bed up against the wall. And he just has another little space where if I'm in the kitchen and we have some people over and we're like, hey, go to your room, he can, and he can play in there. And we just have storage there for him as well, which I feel like as the baby comes and we need to make room for her and stuff like that, we can change this up really easily because it's nothing super permanent. We can knock down this whole storage area. We can keep it the same and give her some bins and give him some bins. But other than that, we have his nice little hanging rod for jackets and flannels and things like that. And then we have all of his shirts and pants all in different bins with his diapers, and then some books for him to read, which he loves. He just grabs them. It's at his height, so that's also really nice. And yeah, it's just another convertible area. And because we couldn't make the wall go all the way up to the ceiling, since we have our emergency exit doors functional, there was one right here in the middle. So we just cut it off and made it a storage space up top and just put whatever stuff we need up there, junk. extra stuff. But yeah, gotta have that space for whatever we kind of really need. We keep like our travel luggage if we do go flying. We have bags up there, we have extra lights, we have the rails for the beds that we put up there during the day. Normally we have extra diapers and stuff, any of that good stuff. And then we can close off his whole room just with a curtain, which is also nice because since there's a window right across from his room, it keeps that sunlight out and keeps it nice and dark for him, and also just gives him and us a little bit more privacy. So it just creates more of a space for him. All right, so leading from RJ's room, we come straight to our area, our bedroom, our sitting area, dresser, closet, whatever you want to call it. But we have an elevator rising bed. So this was another thing we knew we were going to want pretty much from the very beginning, because we knew, again, we didn't want dead space just for our bed. And because we have a dog nose bus, we didn't have to have our bed lofted high because of, you know, all the engine and everything. So we're like, we should utilize that and see what we can do. We talked about doing a Murphy bed, we talked about doing an elevator bed, and this ended up working best for us because we could still have storage without having to have dead space from a Murphy bed of having that bed go up to the wall type of thing. So there's a lot of physics that I'm sure Jeremy could touch on that he had to figure out with this. It is Bluetooth, so it's like electric to our phone, which, you know, if we were boondocking, we do have solar, so we can make it happen still. We don't have to do old school chain or anything like that. And it's just some parts that he picked up from like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, and just roller system with the pulleys. We have 4 pulleys, one for every corner of the bed, pretty much. Yeah, one for every corner. And they're just mounted to the ceiling, so they stay out of the way. And it's nice because obviously we don't need our bed all day long, so we can get into our dressers, no problem. We can fit under here. We can get to our hanging stuff that's here, our hamper. We can get ready over here. We have another medicine cabinet mirror. And these dressers hold a ton of clothes, so. But we also still have shelving too, which is nice. We kind of use it as like our end tables, if you will. Put our phones there, put some candles there, put some pictures, whatever we want there. So it still makes it customized to us and still super functional. I can easily do this from my phone. I just turn on my Bluetooth, and there's an app that goes with the pulleys that we use, and they just all connect and sync up. And then once they're synced, basically just move the pillows down. And we have a stool to be able to get on the bed since I'm pregnant. And we do a little support leg just because this corner needs a little bit more support. We love it. I think this is people's favorite thing when they see the bus. Whenever they see our bed, they're like, "What? That bed? It goes up and down." We're like, "Yeah." So I want to say it was my idea. It probably was, just like the bus was. But yeah, this is probably the best decision that we made, was this, because now I feel like we have so much more living space. And I can, like I said, I can sit and work on that day bed. We can just hang out back here. Another area for RJ to just be able to run around and get out of our hair for a second. And then we can also access the storage up there too, which is nice. And if there wasn't anything up there for storage, we could also go through the emergency exit door. But it also just keeps this door functional too, which we wanted to keep functional. So we have a back deck that is connected, and we can just walk straight out there. It's not connected right now, but normally it is. And then it leads to our ladder, which goes to our rooftop deck. So we have access on both sides of our bus to get in and out however we want. Still have good lighting in here with our windows. And yeah, I think we got them from the website called My Lifter. I'm pretty sure that's where we got them. They are a little hefty in price. That's the only thing. Someone was asking us about it if we had used some other brand, I guess, was really, really expensive. But this was a better alternative because you can buy them single. I'm pretty sure that they are like $200 a piece. But again, it was one of those things we weren't really willing to compromise on. And because we were saving money in other areas, like hitting up the Habitat for Humanity, a huge thing was our ceiling was all donated material, which is shiplap, which super, super nice. We, saved money there, and which was, oh gosh, Jeremy could tell you that was a feat in itself. But it was something that, we knew we were going to utilize and use every single day. So we kind of took the plunge on that. But it is also something, because you're going to be using it constantly, you need something reliable and that's going to last. And these have lasted and not given us any problems. So yeah, it's just learning the physics with our situation. Learning the physics of how it was going to work was the biggest thing, I think. But other than that, yeah, they've been great.
So the fridge we got it from Lowe's. It's really simple. It's just a small fridge that we bought. I don't think it's the most energy efficient. We have solar, and so it's been powering it totally fine with our battery bank and the entire system. But eventually, I don't know if Krista said, but we want to do a fridge that also runs off of propane, which those are really awesome and resourceful and more efficient. But yeah, I don't know if she opened. That's our mess. It's small and there's no freezer space, but we don't mind going to the grocery store 1 or 2 times a week. And that's totally fine. But yeah, this is our dinette area, our kitchen, and the technical side of it. Speaking, I built everything by hand. I took 6 months out of my life and I learned a lot. I spent a lot of time on YouTube. I used to be a welder full time, and that was an incredible help and resource. But we had a lot of things donated, like all the metal for the benches was all donated and it was all cut out. And when I built the benches, it was like the second to last week before our bus warming party and the finish due date, and the benches actually came out to like here, and they were this tall. I was like, that's a bummer. And so I spent like 3 or 4 hours cutting them and squaring them up again and making them smaller, and that was really nice. Making that bench, obviously Krista likes things open concept, and I think my vision for the bus was basically, babe, whatever you want, let me try and make this happen. So this is all Krista. Everything that looks good is Krista. Everything that's like functional and you can't break is probably mine. But yeah, moving forward to the kitchen, I believe Krista touched on this. This was a door, and we found it at Habitat for Humanity. It was like $30, and we're like, hey, we'll buy that, put some polyurethane on it and sand it, and it's working out so far. Gonna eventually change it. All of the cabinets were donations from a family friend who ripped out their kitchen, and Krista said we mixed and matched them, which was awesome. Krista picked out the colors. Again, everything beautiful is from her. So we went with residential windows. That's not everyone's choice. We get questions constantly on like, hey, you went with house windows. Are those gonna break while you're driving? They haven't yet, but I mean, one of the best things about building it yourself, you can rip them out and put in new ones. So they're all dual pane, which is really nice. So it keeps it really warm in here or cool in the summer. And we heavily insulated the entire thing. We didn't use spray foam, which I might have gone with, but it was just a choice just to go with R13 insulation. So windows are all really nice. The sink right here, that goes directly to the gray water tank underneath. We have a lot of storage underneath our bus. We have 2 gray water tanks and 1 black water tank. So essentially we have 2 gray water tanks that are 40 and 50 gallons, and then 1 black water tank that's a 30-gallon tank. And those are fine. They last us about a month until we have to dump them. And we have hookups here, and that's really nice. The gray water, it fills up pretty quick because of the shower, and that we have to dump more often. But this side has all the fresh water underneath right here before the wheel well, and then this side has all the black water and gray water. And the fresh water, I think we have like 97 gallons of fresh, and with a pump and everything that's not hooked up yet. Fun for me, I get to do that. We're just on shore water and shore power right now, so that's fine. But we made sure, if you're building a skoolie, make sure that you have less freshwater storage than you do have black water storage, so it doesn't just fill up if you move all the water from one side to the other. there's a tip for you. That one's free. So moving on, the stove is awesome. This was expensive. That was kind of a bummer, but I think if you're building a home, you wanna go with what you're comfortable with. Craigslist and Salvation Army and Goodwill, those things are awesome resources for saving money. Essentially, Krista wanted something nice, and we're gonna keep this for a long time. I don't think I'll ever sell the bus. I love it. This is our home. We'll end up, if we get a property someday and maybe a real house or build a real house, we'll say like, hey, if there's a young couple that they need a place to stay or Airbnb it out, I don't know. But this is something that we want to give back. The oven's pretty great. It's got all the pizza crumbs from last night, so it does hold a regular size DiGiorno pizza. Yeah, so going into the bathroom now, straight onto the plumbing. This was like such a mind-boggling thing of how do you set up your plumbing? How do you get it all in the right spaces? And I think the hardest part for the bus is that the drivetrain goes right here, and the rear axles are right here, obviously because of the wheel well. And so I couldn't put the shower drain back more towards the shower. There's a big old I-beam right here, and that was really difficult to get around. And so I stuck it here. There's a P-trap underneath it, and that goes over to the gray water. And man, it was just kind of hard to figure out how that all worked. And again, I'm not a plumber, I'm not an electrician, and it's something that was really good that I learned, and I'm happy to learn it. I'm excited that I have more knowledge and I can redo it if I need. The sink is awesome. We picked out a bunch of stuff on Amazon. Be careful with that. One of the main problems was the shower we picked out. It was Japanese, and after I put all the hookups in for the normal shower and I went to fasten the shower we bought on Amazon, nothing fit, and none of the threads were actually the right size. And I took it to Home Depot and Lowe's, and I was just trying to figure out, like, why are these threads just off? Like, there's no size that will actually fit this. And I'm like, babe, I'm sorry, like, this cannot work here. And then you just go and read all the reviews on that shower, and you're like, everyone's saying like it worked for 2 minutes and then blew apart. So make sure you read the reviews, guys. Yeah, sink, it goes straight through. You can actually see the pipe where the gray water goes underneath. All the drawers on this vanity pop out. Lowe's does not sell these vanities with the legs chopped off. That was custom. So if you need that done, just call me. I'll come chop off all the legs of your vanity. So yeah, that was our creative way of using the wheel well. As you can see, some of the tile started to kind of split while we were driving, and that's fine. We're learning. We are by no means perfect in home building. This is all trial and error. I love all the wood aesthetic. We used stain, and we sanded the heck out of this. As you can see, that wasn't sanded, which, I mean, a little character there. The piping up top. So, I mean, for any builder, I feel like you get really, really into using one material. And it was right after I built the bookshelves, and there are all these like creative pipes of how to like hold the books in place so they don't fall out. And I was like, hey, I could probably build a shower rack out of this. And this was pretty difficult to get in, actually. I wish I would use phalanges on the insides here so I could just pull it out, but because it's actually stuck into the wall on both sides, which you'll probably get a shot of that, it won't come out, which is funny. I'll probably just have to use a cutoff wheel and pull it out that way if I ever have to move it. But again, after we put this in, we thought about the shower curtain, and I was like, man, we didn't even think about this. And there's a big pipe right here that's in the way. And I had my cousin come over. He was working on electrical with me because the lights have been an interesting thing where I'm not an electrician. I'm learning. And he said, hey, I can just bend a piece of conduit and maybe that'll fit. And so he just took like 10 minutes and made this weird U. And it's actually really spacious when you're showering in here. So this is not a real home, guys. This is this is a school bus, and so if you're in a school bus showering, it's supposed to be small. But yeah, so that's the bathroom for you. We love it. There are no tie downs on these guys, so anytime we're driving it, I actually just take off the handles and put a screw through. So that's my way of getting around it. It's fine. The toilet, that's from an RV supply store, and it works. It's nice. It's got water plugged into the back of it. The whole box that I built on the back of the toilet, it's not to make it look like the tank of an actual toilet. It's just for storage, and then everything that is water related is plugged into the back of it. So if I need to get into anything back there, I just take a screw gun and pull off these guys right here, and then I can reach it. The reason we went with a RV toilet rather than a composting toilet was, I mean, this sounds a little selfish, but just for the mere fact that I didn't want to have to look at my wife's poop constantly, you know, like once a month. Hey babe, will you change out my poop? I'm not a germaphobe at all. I actually got the chance to deliver our first child, and that was an amazing experience. But to think about having to do that like once a month or more often, it just doesn't sound that fun. I've used composting toilets before. They work really well, but I just didn't want to look at poop constantly. So it's preference, but people that do it, that's awesome. That's so rad to use a composting toilet, and it's energy efficient. It saves water, and it was not for us right now. So maybe in the future. Moving towards the back of the bus, this is a barn door, obviously. We move these pegs right here forward and backwards with an Allen wrench just to keep the door in place while we're moving it. Because obviously if you slam on the brakes, the door's gonna go flying, and that would be a bummer if it just slammed there and maybe broke the window. I don't know. I think one of the dumbest questions, though, moving on, that I get in the bus is like, hey, what's under here? What is this, storage? And I'm like, that's a wheel well. I can't do anything with that. And they're like, oh, I thought it was just a fancy step, that a step and then another step and a half. And I'm like, that's dumb. So I mean, yeah, there was an aesthetic here of making this this angle easier to get in the bathroom, because if it was flat, you'd have less of a doorway, and I don't know. Nothing's finished, but it works for us, and it's not a bummer getting a little bit of a calf workout. You have to step up into the bus anyway. This is RJ's room so far, and the new baby. I believe Krista covered that there are 2 Murphy beds. So again, I used to be a full-time welder, and I love making things and fabricating with metal. And yeah, the second bunk goes up top, and it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out how we wanted to configure his room, because you want space to be able to change a baby. That's kind of annoying if you have to pull the baby out and change the baby in your own bed constantly, or not have enough room in here to work. And those with kids know it is not always this clean. We actually cleaned the bus pretty well before having this little tour. So when the new baby comes, I will hook up the second bed, obviously put different rails on it, and anything can be changed, honestly. The clothes rack also matches the bookshelf rack, and yeah, got a little storage up top. That's easy. This beam right here, this beam is probably one of the most important beams in the bus. When you talk about just framing all of our walls and 2x3s that we use to build the bus, it's all on this side. And so basically, if you didn't have this guy here, the entire thing would want to rack back or forth. And so this guy right here, this ties the entire right side of the bus, passenger side of the bus, in from going back and forth. So there's no way that it's going to go this way, because it's tied into the ceiling, and it's not going to fall this way, obviously, because it's tied into that wall. But moving forward and backwards, this guy's amazing. 2 days before we were done with the bus, we were gonna get ready for this bus warming party, and we had friends come and help work on the bus, which, if you're not careful about that, you'll have you'll have holes in your walls and things that you just don't want, and that's fine. I love the heart of all my friends. I don't know who it was. We're gonna blame Krista right now. This beam right here and all of these guys, they were all stained like this red, ugly gun stock stain. And I woke up in the morning, and at that point, we were rushing to get it done. I was getting up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, working until 2 or 3 a.m. And I woke up in the morning, and these were like this ugly red color. I was like, okay, so I got to spend my morning hopefully trying to get that off. And I didn't know, like, you can't sand stain and get it all the way off. And so I actually just took a table saw, and I took maybe a 1/16 of an inch off every side of these guys and just pulled it all off, then restained them, slapped them all back up there, and it worked out. So yeah, those who have kids, I will say, if you're gonna get a curtain, you can get one that's a sound dampening curtain, and those work really well. We have a noise machine in his room, and we're really blessed to not have a child that can't sleep without a noise machine, but it's really nice to have that going like a lot of the time. So, yep, moving on to our room. I think this is the biggest question with the elevator bed. And I wanted to make a really important note that when we were considering this, it was really difficult because you have two options if you're building a skoolie and you want to make a bed. You can either have it on the ground and have your storage above with cabinets or I don't know, any way to configure with shelving, or you can have it lofted and then have all your storage underneath, and you have to climb into bed, and maybe you don't have that much space because of the ceiling. Our ceilings are raised, and we did a roof raise, and we'll talk about that later, but it really helps with the elevator bed. If you commit to doing a Murphy bed, which seems like the median between a lofted bed or a bed on the floor, you're also committing to always putting the Murphy bed back up. And if I'm honest, I never make my bed. It's a thing, like you just wake up and you leave your bed. You don't make it every day. It's 2019. We don't do that very much anymore. It's nice when we do. I will give you that, and it looks really nice. But I personally do not make my bed every day, and therefore I wouldn't commit to putting my Murphy bed up every day. And if you commit to doing a Murphy bed, you're committing to having the space under it all the time. And so with that in mind, we're like, you know what? I really want to do something different, and I went to a garage door shop, and I bought these rails that hold garage door rollers. And I was asking the guy, I'm like, hey, I want a big spring that I can hook onto my bed and put it above my bed so that you can just lift up the bed with one hand and have it tensioned to the right pounds and pressure so that it would just lift up and down with one hand. And it's like, that's a really good idea. One problem. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm all eager. He's like, you have a giant spring on your bed that's pulling tension so that it can pull the bed together. Imagine if that just came out of your ceiling while you're sleeping. You're in a mouse trap, basically. And I'm like, oh, well, that's dumb. So anyway, we basically, I did so much searching, and I found these garage door lifters. They're called My Lifter. I don't know if I'm going to get a plug from that. And they're pretty expensive. It's our home. Again, we wanted to put more money into it. You can do a skoolie for a lot less than we did. But my wife is pregnant. I did not want a chain or a way that she would have to like turn a wheel and it'd be difficult on her. And so obviously, Krista showed you, I believe, it was Bluetooth. Things goes up and down totally fine. I'm gonna change it a little bit, I think, in the future to make it go a little bit higher because I'm 5'8" and I can stand under here fine, but I do have to duck my head here, and then I hit every other beam. So, moving forward, got a nice little leg there. That's a funny part of the video. So putting in the garage door rollers on each of the walls, it didn't work first try. We tried so many different configurations. There's a ton of little holes in the bed because I actually put the cables through the bed and put them on pulleys under here, and I'm like, hey, you need 2 points of reference for a pulley for it to work really well. And then again, I didn't want these cables going alongside the bed, and it would be yanking on the sheets, and it would get stuck in the pulleys, and that was just kind of a bummer. And I said, you know what, like we're gonna try all these different configurations, and this one worked the best so far, and it hides the wires the best, and all of the lifters are tied into the ribs of the bus. If you are building your own skoolie, the ribs of the bus are the bones. Those are what you want to tie into for anchoring anything, and they work really, really well. So I don't know if Krista touched on the ceiling. Throughout the bus, we have this really nice wood. We had so many different families that just said, hey, like we're going to donate, and we're going to donate wood, we're going to donate metal, we're going to donate our time. And so many families came alongside us and supported us through this journey. And actually my friend that he owns a construction company, he said, hey, I got your ceiling, because I was asking him like every week, hey, do you have any extra wood that I can use for a ceiling? He said, hey, I got your ceiling, but it's summer and it's really hot, so the thing's gonna warp really quickly. So you need to get it up in the next 2 days. And I hadn't wired any of the lights yet. And so I Googled like, what's a complete circuit? How do you get switches in and everything? And I took like 5 or 6 hours, and I just ran all the wires as fast as I could, and I got them all up, and I said, okay, I think that works. And I hooked up power, and I ran it, and I tested every one of the connections, and it somehow worked. And I was like, okay, and my common, my ground, my hot wires, they're all really good. And all of the lights are 12 volt, so it's not super hard to work with those wires without getting shocked. You don't get shocked with 12 volt, and they're energy efficient. So, and then it was time to put up the ceiling, which was an insane task. All of the screws are in each one of the ribs. So down the bus, you have every 26 inches, there's a rib, except for the first part and the last part of the bus. There it's about 36 inches. So I had to drill with a steel bit and then put in a screw. Drill with a steel bit, put in a screw, and your arms are up here for a week, and it hurts. And so that took so long. Actually, the hardest part was the very first 2 lines going all the way down the bus, because even when we snapped a line and tried to find a perfect part of the bus isn't square. So no matter what, if we measured like from one wall to the other and tried to find the very middle, it didn't matter, because at the very other end it was different. And I was like, this is so frustrating and it's ridiculous. And so it must have taken me 4 to 6 hours to find a straight line with the first 2 lines up and down the bus. That's how long it took. Everything's tongue and groove, so it hooked in real nice, but still it was a pain in the butt, and it was really hard. I'm happy with the outcome. So you can do whatever ceiling you like. It's awesome because it's your own home, and it builds character in you, and it looks good because there's a lot of character in it. So now you've seen the inside, a couple of fun stories have been told. Let's go to the outside. Hi, welcome to the outside of the bus. This is the outside of the bus. So let's just walk through it, essentially, what you're looking at if you're buying a bus. This is an International 3800. It is 2004, and so it runs good. Big old engine inside. This is something you really need to see. It's a rat's nest. If you buy a bus and the child safety check is installed, that will be the most difficult thing as far as your wiring system to get undone. There are tons of wires in here that are just like, hey, we wanted to put this in here, so we did. I don't know what it's for, but the company that was using the bus beforehand up in Oregon decided to install a bunch of garbage and then clip it off instead of just remove it. And you have this speaker in here with a really nice lady that tells you that the back door is open. So it took us 7 months to get the bus started again for one reason. The relay was powered by an interlock switch. With the back door being open, it won't let the bus start or run at all. And so when we gutted the thing, I ripped out everything. I just went to town. I was probably listening to heavy metal in my headset, and I was just pulling out wires left and right, which is really a bummer because I had to rewire all the brake lights and turn signals and everything, and that's difficult. But yeah, there was all this rewiring we had to figure out, and I had a couple automotive people come out, and mechanics, and time after time there were people that would say, yeah, I'll get it started right up, and they're like, hey, you just got to prime it. You just got to prime it, man. You just got to prime it. And the diesel lines are probably empty. You just got to prime it. I'm like, well, that's garbage. People would come out, they'd spend 45 minutes kicking it, trying to look at it and be like, yeah, it won't start. I'll call you back. And no one would call me back. I finally found a trucking company, and I didn't even tell them it was a bus because I didn't want to tell them that I worked on it. A guy came out, barely spoke English. He originally was from Mexico City, barely wanted to talk to me, got into the problem immediately and figured out that my ECM was actually shorted out because I welded on the bus and I didn't disconnect the battery. So if you're welding on your bus, disconnect it. I made a huge mistake. There was a company out in Texas that rebuilt it. I shipped it out to them. They shipped it back a week later. Only cost like $600 instead of buying a whole new ECM, which is way cheaper. Moving on. These buses are really awesome. They come with 3 batteries, so it's all disconnected right now so my son doesn't turn on the headlights where you don't notice and then drain the batteries. We have storage. I think one of the only things that I did not do in the bus that was actually delegated out to my father was the solar hookup. He's really a geek into like hooking up all the electrical and the solar, and he wanted to hook up the battery bank, and I was like, yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead. I have a lot to do. And so he taught me everything that he did, and I was really excited about it. We have an inverter. We have 48 volts coming out of that battery bank, and this is our breaker box. We got an outlet power, shore power, a ton of storage. Everything under here I welded. So I welded these big L brackets and I bolted them to the I-beams, which it says actually on the I-beams, don't drill through them. I don't know if that's going to be a huge problem. I got some pretty big bolts going through there to hold this whole thing up, but there's no way this is going anywhere. And then obviously you got to have some piece of wood or something here so that no rocks fly up or water if you go through a puddle. So that's going to get your whole system wet. So yeah, all the solar is coming down through the wall, drilled a ton of holes in the ceiling and in through the floor of my bus, which just felt weird. Drilling a hole through your bus that you just purchased. And then still what is left to do is I have to find a way to latch this up here so that I don't have to hold it. Right now we use a stick. It's really modern, it works. And then I haven't bolted these guys down yet. When we drove it, they were just super heavy, so nothing really broke. Yeah. And then obviously you want a way to lock it so that you don't have people just posting, hey, this is a cool skoolie that I found, and then they post where you live and your location, and then you got a bunch of people saying, oh, we're gonna go steal all their batteries. That'd be a bummer. This is my battery bank. I got 8 batteries in there. They're all 6 volt. 2 in parallel, and then all of them in series. So if you do any research on that, that's what you're gonna find is one of the best ways to do it, where you can get 48 volts out of it. If you look under here, that's where everything's connected in to the banks and my 12 volt. So it's just converting it over, cutting it down from 48 to 12. And that's also something that I just didn't know before, but I learned. And there's a lot of learning involved in skoolies. So that's all my fresh water right here. Got a ton of gallons there. We should be good if we're on the road. Right now we're permanently docked because we're expecting a new baby, and that's a little bit of stress I don't want to have on my plate. So we used all PEX for the plumbing. It's really easy to work with. It holds hot water heater. You just basically do a ton of research on Amazon and say, hey, what is the best hot water heater out there? And Google is your best friend. Obviously my SureFlow system for my pump is not wired in, which I will do that pretty soon here. But everyone asks if this was like a kit that all came together, and I said no. I built that, and you basically have to have a specific flow when using a pump. You have to have a filter, then your pump, then your aerator, so that You don't have that weird pressure that blows out air when you turn on a faucet. And after that, it goes right into my hot water heater and it comes out warm, hopefully. So the hot water heaters, it's all powered by propane. We just do the propane exchange right now. It's really nice. You can find them at any gas station. And as long as you're not buying new propane tanks, it's only like 20 bucks. It's not bad. A typical 20-pound propane tank usually lasts us between like 3 to 5 weeks. So depending on how long of showers we take. So every time we have to wash our hair, Krista, it takes a little bit longer, but that's fine. The oven also doesn't take a lot of propane. It actually works really well. If you are using a hot water heater, tankless hot water heater, it takes a 9-volt battery. It's not bad. And then also you have to have some sort of panel up top to divert the hot exhaust coming out, so it doesn't just melt all this stuff underneath your bus. Then it'll drip in there and just make a big old mess, and that's not something you want to deal with. So obviously the hose is our shore water, and you need to get, technically speaking, you don't have to, but you kind of want to make sure that the pressure that's going into your system isn't too high, so there no pipes break or anything like that. And that's not a ton of storage, but there's a few spaces that I can put the Rubbermaid bins in, and we made sure to measure out for those specifically because Husky makes a really good one and they last a long time. Last week I decided, hey, I want more storage, and so you build your own skoolie, you can make your own storage. I just put a couple rivets in and used a cutoff blade and cut myself a little hatch. And that's where all my propane is sitting right now. So we use just the flex line, and we have 2 propane tanks. And so when the shower goes cold and my wife gets mad at me, I say, I'll just flip it over. I walk out here, switch it to the next tank, and that way I always have a tank that's recycling. So I take the old tank, stick it in my truck, and while I'm out, I'll grab a new one. That way we're not pressed to grab a new tank right away. And then obviously under here you can slide back the Rubbermaid bends, and I made sure to measure out for those, and yeah, it's good storage. So moving to the back, this is the extra Trex, I believe it's called, that was from the deck. All of the deck was donated to us. We have really, really awesome friends and just a bunch of people that supported us. So I made a little deck that could sit on the back of the bus so that when you walk out of the back door from our bedroom, you don't just fall onto the ground. You can actually just sit out here. It's really nice. Hooked up the hammock because that's one of my favorite places to sit with my son, and it's really nice to sit in a hammock with your bus. We will be to speak on the roof raise. A lot of people have questions on the roof raise. Okay, so we can go up on the deck and check out our hangout spot. Welcome to our deck. Right now, Krista cannot climb up here because she's 6 months pregnant, so I get to hang out up here. I put lawn chairs up here, and it's my spot. So it's really nice to have a deck that you can travel with wherever you want. And Trex is really, really heavy and expensive. The only way we were able to do that is by someone donating it. So I don't know if it's like too heavy for the top of the bus while we're driving a lot. It works fine. Everyone asks about weight ratio. We actually took out 1,500 pounds worth of seats out of the bus when we gutted it. And that's not even to mention all of the panels for the ceiling. Those things are heavy. And so everyone's like, oh, do you have too much weight on the bus? And really, it's supposed to hold 72 kids and 1,500 pounds worth of seats, not mentioning everything else. So we left the hatches. We love those. Sometimes I'll climb in and out of them. That's right to the storage. That's above RJ's bed. So I just grab things out of there or talk to Krista. This is the hatch that is for the bathroom. And then obviously all of our solar. And so we have 6 panels right now, and they work totally fine. We get enough sun. We're coming out of winter right now and we're in spring, and so it's a little bit cloudy, and that's why it's really good to be on shore power. It's a little bit harder to keep your solar and your battery bank up and running when you don't have sun. So, yep, obviously, this is the deck. There's a little fairing up front that keeps the wind coming over the top of the bus. So each of these panels are 120 watts, and you really have to ratio out what watts and what amps you want and how to like balance those out properly so you're not overloading your system, and also you're just getting the best use out of the solar panels as possible. So right now it's 2019, you're paying about $1 a watt, and so we went with the smaller panels, and that's totally fine. It works great for us. It's just we don't like a lot of people knowing where we live because people like to steal solar panels, and that's dumb. So bolted those down with special bolts with a little key so that they don't come up very easily. So that's really nice. Other than that, this is the only part of the bus and underneath us right now that's still yellow. So this is the passenger side of the bus. We got a floodlight here, which is really nice. It's got a little switch on the inside that's 12 volt as well. The outside shower is over here. That is for me and RJ when we get kicked out of the house. And on the very back of the bus, I don't know if you saw, there's a spigot, and that's just for filling up buckets of water. And I remember when I was first watching videos on skoolies when we were getting ideas, there's like an old man that had a bus and he was like, this is a spigot for filling up buckets of water. And I'm like, I want one of those. And so I just put PEX all the way to the back of the bus for filling up buckets of water for some reason. So that's nice. The roof raise, that is a huge question. It's honestly not that difficult to do. We did it in 8 hours, me and a couple of buddies. So basically what we did was I measured out the distance between the bus windows that were in originally. The distance between the windows, the frame and the bottom, was 28 inches. The pipe that I cut to fit inside of the C channel, it was exactly the same size, 2-inch, and it fit perfectly inside of that C channel at 20 inches long. That way, no matter where you cut on the bus, if you stuck that exact piece at 20 inches, then it would all raise the exact same height. So like even if I cut one of the ribs really high at the top and the next one like more at the bottom, it didn't matter because the entire thing was going to raise up the exact same height. So that way you didn't have to make sure you cut a perfect straight line because nothing is square in the bus. And so from there, I made it basically looking like a toothpick, the pieces of metal that we stuffed into the C channel. So there was 2-inch, and I stuck inside of 2-inch on either side a piece of 1 3/4 inch of steel. I welded that together just on one side. And then once we cut it, we only had 4 corners left to cut. So it was, the entire roof was on the 2 front ones and the 2 back ones, and we framed the bus up and just 2x4s. We stuck it under there, and then we added 20 inches onto another piece of framing, and we had that sitting in the bus as well, ready to go up when it was raised. And what we did was we had a 4x4 and a car jack, and we had one guy with a 4x4 in the very back of the bus hanging outside in the door, just jacking up the thing, and we had 4 guys, one on each side of the roof, and we cut it all, and we all held a piece of the roof, and then it was getting windy, and so we were like holding it, and it was starting to move over, and it was crazy because we thought the roof was just going to fall off the side of the bus. And so we ended up jacking it up with a car jack, one side, just the back of it. We put up the bigger frame, we stuck it under there really quick, and when we ran to the other side, we jacked it up, and we were all holding the corners while this was happening. And then basically me and my friend, we had 2 welders. I was welding one side and one on the other side, just 2 MIG welders running both sides down the bus, and we stuck all of those pieces in, and we just went to work, and it was 8 hours and the thing was raised. And then after that, we just took those sheets of 16 gauge sheet metal, and since it was 48 inches at that time, 20 plus the 28 from the windows, it stuck right up under there, and then we just riveted it. And make sure, another note, that you go back to front so that you don't have openings that are overlapped with the bus in the wrong direction, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was the roof raise. The transition was the hardest part. If you look at our Instagram, basically we had a friend that works at a metal shop, and we took stencil after stencil with cardboard and just trying to fold it over and get the right angle, and that was really, really rough. I actually know somebody with a bus that just put a little deck right up front, and it's just square. And it's, I mean, that's probably not good on gas mileage, but that's honestly the hardest part, And what we did was we just bent those pieces of cardboard until we got the right shape. We measured it all out and we said, okay, it's time to cut out the metal. And he bent all the metal. He brought it over and he said, here you go. And I'm like, okay. And basically we just had 2 pieces. And again, that's on our Instagram. And I spent hours with rivets, and that's fine. Don't use a hand rivet gun. I actually got that from Chris's video. He used a hand rivet gun for a lot of his rivets, and his forearms must have been jacked. But at the same time, using an air tool and just using pop rivets, super simple, and it was way faster. So that's the roof series for you.
Yeah, thanks for touring our bus with us. If you guys are curious to see more of it, or if you have any questions for us, you can follow our Instagram at The Castle on Wheels. The link will be down below.
If you guys were thinking about doing a skoolie, the skoolie community is really welcoming. We were welcomed in, and we had a bunch of messages when we were doing the build, and everyone was like, hey, like, you guys are doing great, like, keep going, keep fighting for it. And I gotta say, like, if you're planning on doing a skoolie, it's not a dream, it's not pretty. You really have to have the right reasons. I would say go to an RV store if you're not willing to pay the price. And I'm not saying like money. It really costs you to build a lot of character. And I learned a lot specifically as a human. I was also alone a lot of the time because it was only me working on the bus, and being alone that many months is kind of difficult. I missed my family. It's a commitment to live in a skoolie. It's a commitment to build a skoolie. I think it's really unique for our situation that we wanted to go out and take the adventure and take the chance. And with my work being remote and Krista doing amazing photography, anyway, just check out our Instagram. It's The Castle on Wheels. You can follow myself, my personal account. Krista has multiple accounts for her photography. Plug. Or her personal account. She takes amazing photos, by the way. Check it out.